Our next speaker is our Bainbridge Island Police Chief, Matt Hamner. And when I heard his story, and not only me, but when we all heard his story, it so touched our hearts. Our police chief, Matt Hamner, and the lessons he learned from his dad.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Thank you for the clapping. I hope that is just as loud when I finish as when I started. My father always told me, he said, when you become a good parent, you're usually unemployed. And so I've thought about that. I have 7 children. My mother and father had 15, and I'm in the middle of those 15. I had 6 older brothers and sisters and 6 younger. My parents had twins that passed away. So family has been very important to me. I grew up in a large family. Obviously, I've just shared that with you. So I grew up in a large family, and it was very important to us to take care of one another. And some of the lessons that my father taught me, I want to share tonight, because when I came to the island, one of the first things we had here was the Bainbridge Youth Summit. And we talked about the issues that were occurring with the youth on the island. And it made me a little reflective, and I began to think of the lessons that my father taught me when I was young. And I quickly went back to my first grade year in school, and I got a new bicycle. And I asked my father to teach me how to ride that bicycle. And I remember my father was a little bit busy. He had 13 children, maybe 11 at the time, so not very many. And so he takes me outside, and he begins to show me, and I fall and hit the concrete, and it didn't feel too good. And I told him, I said, I don't want to learn how to ride a bike, this hurts. He says, well, if you don't get back up, you'll never learn. And he went in the house, and I was very frustrated, and I was sad, and I was mad at him because he walked away. I watched him, I remember the door closing. To this day, it's like yesterday. And I thought, he really made me mad. I got back on that bike, and for about the next hour and a half, I practiced, and I became very good in an hour and a half. And I remember running into the house, talking to my dad and yelling at him, saying, I told you I learned how to ride a bike. He said, Matt, I knew you could. That has lasted with me the rest of my life. I realized that my dad had confidence in me. It wasn't a few years later when I became a little older and he sat me down and he said, Matt, I want you to remember something. You're a Hamner, and don't you ever forget it. Don't ever do anything that brings disrepute upon this family. I didn't know, as far as I was concerned, I didn't know what a Hamner was. They could have had the longest criminal history in the world. All I knew from my father was, don't do anything to embarrass him. So later in life, a few years in high school, I took geometry, and I was pretty good at math and science, but the concept of planes confused me. I didn't understand that. A plane had to have a thickness, a width, a height, and he told me, he says, you go back and you read that section 3 times, and then you come back and tell me if you don't understand it. I understood it. I was named Geometry Student of the Year at the end of my school year, and I give my dad credit for that. So the point of my story tonight is to explain to you how an engineering student at Purdue University became a cop. So I have about 15 hours of multivariate calculus and linear analysis and engineering formatting and a little thermodynamics. I began studying at Purdue. Learned Vietnamese, got married, started to have children, and my brother, who was told as a senior, these are some of the lessons that my father taught me, never to judge anybody, because people judged us. They looked down on us. And my oldest brother was told that he wasn't college material, that he should just go off to the Ford factory in Indianapolis, and they were hiring. It'd be a good job for him. Well, he became a little upset, about like I did in the first grade. And Lance graduated with his undergrad degree and went on to law school and graduated magna cum laude, and now is a county judge in the same county that we grew up in. And so the story go on. I could tell about my other 12 brothers and sisters how that challenge went on. And so I asked my dad, I go, we should go over and talk to Larry Ferris and really just rub it in. He says, don't do that. He said, you need to thank him. If it wasn't for that, maybe you wouldn't have turned out the way you did. So my dad told me never to judge anybody. So one of the last stories that I want to share with you is when I was in college, and I told my dad that UPS had worked me long hours and that to get through engineering school I needed another job. And my older brother, who was now an attorney, had been a cop, and he said, get on with the police department. It's great. You can pick the shift you want, you get your engineering classes, and it's great for your resume. So I thought, hey, that's a good idea. I started to have, we had 2 kids, or 1 child at a time. We're gonna have another one. I thought, yeah, I probably need, something more solid, and guaranteed hours, and UPS was a little shaky. So I got on the police department, and 3 days out of the police academy, I walked in on an armed robbery. The guy was walking out, and I thought, if you rob a store, it should say it right across your forehead. It didn't. This guy says hi, and I said hi. I didn't know he had a sawed-off shotgun and a wad full of money. I did think it odd that the money was sitting in his hand, but, I was a rookie, right? So he walks out, and the clerk's face is peeled against the glass, and he goes, he's got a sawed-off shotgun. He just robbed me. I became a cop and never left. And I thank my father for the lessons that he taught me of honesty and hard work, forgiving others, and not judging. Thank you.